Hey everybody, Jeff Stone here with day 89 of the year 2015 at magicreview.com. Sherlockian. 2-disc set by Ben Cardall. It's all mentalism, and it's close-up mentalism. And it's, for the most part, the methods are very, very doable and realistic. And the only ones that they're all doable and they're all realistic. But a couple of them, that's the best way to explain it. Okay, I remember reading one time, this is going to be a little bit made up, but it's very close to what I'm about to say. I was reading a Darwin Ortiz book, and the effect was basically something like spectator names any card, and then you are able to center deal it. That's the trick, right? That you're able to center deal the card that they name. The method for that is you actually do it. So that was the method. Now, I might be getting the trick a little bit wrong from the Ortiz thing, but that conceptually was that kind of thing where it was like you just really were doing what you were saying. There's a lot of that going on here on Sherlockian. The way Ben Cardall performs is he calls himself a deductionist, and he's very much, his character is very much like a modern day Sherlock Holmes. And so all of his routines and his effects and his demonstrations are all centered around the idea of being able to use skills and techniques that Sherlock Holmes maybe would have used. In some cases, that's pretty much what he's really doing. He's really reading people. But he talks about how to do it, and he talks about the outs, for lack of a better word, if you miss, and how to practice it and this kind of stuff. So it's not something that is insurmountable. It's just you're going to have to be dedicated to do some of it. Not all of it's like that. So let me just briefly run through. There are 10 effects for $60, a 2-disc set here. This could have been one DVD, I think, even with the 10 effects. I'm not sure why it was on 2 DVDs, frankly. Anyway, but other than that, here we go. So the first one, 3 truths and a lie. This is one of those ones where there's 2 methods. There's one method where you really just know, you just really do sort of figure it out. So you have them make 4 statements. One of them is going to be a lie, and they can be any statements they want about themselves, and you're able to tell that, the statement number 2 was the lie or whatever. And so there's one way of basically really doing it, and then there's another way that's surefire. That now the way when you really do it, you don't need any props. And I shouldn't have done air quotes because it isn't an air quote. You really are doing it. But then there's the other one that's more surefire, and all you need is a pen and a paper. And they don't write down on the paper what the statements are. Nothing like that. There's something else that's written down that gives you the information you need to be able to tell where they're lying or telling the truth. Speed deduction. This is this is one of those ones that absolutely requires no Sherlockian skills whatsoever, but you demonstrate some Sherlockian skills. It's a very, very clever concept where a spectator is thinking of a card and of it could be, depending on the way things play out, it could be a pet that they have, it could be their zodiac sign, it could be their job they have, it could be their favorite drink, and you're able to divine the drink or the pet or the whatever and the thought of card. It's very, 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 very clever, and you don't write a thing down, and they don't write anything down. It's very, very smart. The psychometric system. This is basically, he has a big bag that it's a gimmicked bag that you will have to make, which is easy to make. He shows you how to do it. I didn't make one, but you see how he makes it. It's super simple. Anyway, so that bag, he goes around and gets a bunch of people to put one object in the, they come up to him. He's standing there blindfolded. They bring stuff to the bag and they put something in it. And the idea is it's a collective pocket. My hands are out of frame. It's a big collective pocket, and so he's able to divine what's in all of our pockets by having one thing from each pocket in there. And so he doesn't, he's blindfolded while you're putting the objects in, and then after the object's all in, he hands the bag, even though it's gimmicked, he can still hand it out. Somebody holds on to the bag, and then he tells not only what objects are in there, but who put them in there, and does cold reading stuff to go along with it. Okay, Rain Man. This is clever, very smart. They're all smart. I mean, this stuff. A lot of this material is very. It's not your typical mentalism routines. I mean, it's not so far out in left field that it's nothing like mentalism you've seen, but it is a little bit different. So Rainman, this one's a little closer to what you've probably seen, but it's a memorized deck routine, or it's a routine where you appear to memorize a deck, I should say, but it's a borrowed shuffle deck, and it's very easy. It's very, very easy. In fact, he's teaching the way you do it, and as I'm watching him do it, I'm already, like, the things that you need to memorize to make it work are locking into my brain, and I'm actually, right as he's dealing through them to show that he's memorized the things he's memorized, I'm going, yeah, the next one's this, the next one's that. I mean, it's very, very easy, very simple thing to do. And then it ends with a demonstration where you apparently give the spectator the ability to subconsciously memorize stuff about the deck. Sherlockian, the title effect, is this is one where you're pretty much really doing it. And for the most part, yeah, there's two of three phases where you're just really doing it. And the effect is you have somebody, you have two people, let's say, and you have one of them place an object on the table. And your back is turned, your ears are plugged, and you're able to divine who placed the object on the table. So you turn around, see the object, and you're able to tell who put it there. Next phase, you turn around again, and one of the people at the table, you single out, you and you. One of you are going to take the object. So you turn your back, one of them takes the object. You turn back around, you're able to tell who took the object. Those two, you're basically pretty much really doing it. I mean, it's pretty, it's all about observation, and it kind of reminds me of Psych, where, every time Sean walks into a room and his dad was there, Dad's like, how many hats are in the room? I believe that Ben Cardall could answer that question accurately every time. He's very, very, I mean, he lives this concept. He is a living, breathing Sherlock Holmes. And I wouldn't say he's anywhere near as good as Sherlock was, but that's because Sherlock's not real. But man, he's good. He's very, very good. So the phase 3 is where this whole thing that you're doing with this Sherlockian routine, you're telling a story that's a supposed Sherlock Holmes story that's actually one that Ben Cardall made up, but it fits the premise of everything nicely. And there's a character that is the criminal or whatever, and the spectators just give the person a name, randomly make up a name for that spectator, and you've later shown that you had predicted that well in advance. So that one is not, that one just uses pretty standard methods, but the first two, you kind of have to learn this whole observation deduction thing. Saido, or Saido, so he refers to a game of Cluedo. So Saido, I guess is what you call this. But as he's describing it, sounds exactly like what I would call Clue, the Milton Bradley game with Colonel Mustard in the kitchen with a knife or whatever. But they have, I guess in the UK or something, they have Cluedo. I guess it's a similar kind of a game. Anyway, he's made this sort of psychic version of it where it just uses the cards, and the cards are ones he made, and he actually has the templates for those on an included PDF. But the idea is you get 3 people involved. They shuffle up the deck of cards, and one person removes a name that will be a victim, which is a little different than Clue. Clue, you're picking the name of the murderer. So they pull out the name. One guy is going to be the victim person. Another guy is going to be the weapon person. Another guy is going to be the location person. And this is all done when your back's turned. So when you turn back around, you're able to tell who picked, who was the location guy, who was the weapon guy, who was the victim guy, and which victim it was, and which weapon it was, and which room it was. And all you need is a little deck of cards to do it that you can make based on the template that's provided. And the method's very easy. It's super stupid, simple, easy. It's the card idea that's, I think it was in, I'm sure it's in Encyclopedia of Card Tricks and all those old books, the card concept that's behind it. Sensory perception. This is a clever use. It's almost got a sort of PK Touches feel to it, but it's a way to make the spectator A get some sort of a feeling that helps that, and he's able to divine what spectator B is thinking. So in other words, let's say spectator B is thinking of, you tell him, hey, think of any drink. And then spectator A, you walk over to spectator A and you have spectator A close his eyes and you never touch him, but he holds his hand out like this and you move your hands around him and you name off different drinks. And on the drink so you're like coffee, tea, water, beer, milk, whatever. And when the drink that spectator B is thinking of is said, spectator A feels something. And he knows that that's the thought of drink. So that's the basic idea. Sorry, that was a little confusing there. That does use, there's a pre-show method for that, and there's I guess it's pre-show. There's another variation that he taught that doesn't use pre-show, but the spectator doesn't actually divine that one. So I would say, yeah, if you're going to do the one where the spectator divines it, there is some pre-show work with the person thinking of the object. In other words, what it comes down to is you need to know what they're thinking, right? You don't have to use pre-show to do that. You can use whatever method you want. And he does say that. So I guess, yeah, it's not 100% have to be pre-show. Anyway, rambling. We got 3 left. 3-point problem. This is actually smart, and what's cool about this is it's the kind of thing that can really help you connect with your spectator. The idea is she writes down, she has some problem she's dealing with in life or whatever, and she writes down one word that can sum it up on a little card. She folds it in fourths. Your back is turned the whole time, right? And then you give her an object that's meant to be lighthearted and funny. It's a sponge ball is what it is. He calls it a clown nose. And he says, I want you to hold it, the funny thing in one hand and the troubling thing, the note in the other hand, and mix them up. And then we're going to use this for me to help you try to overcome this problem and to be able to deal with it better. So he does 2 or 3 times in a row where he is able to guess which hand is holding the ball and which hand is holding the problem. Then the next step is he actually divines what the written object is on the card. And then last, he has her look at the card, and she's unable to see or read what is on the card. It looks funny to her. And the whole idea, though, behind it, which makes this clever, the method's simple. What makes it clever, though, is that you're helping her to make light of a tough situation, and it's a good way to bond with her and help her kind of get, to deal with it in a way. So I really like the concept of that, and the method is super simple. Last 2, you got the Twitches theory, which is effectively turning yourself into Cal Lightman from Lie to Me, where you're able to read, facial macro expressions and that kind of stuff, and that you're essentially just really doing it. But even if you miss on some of those, the rest of the routine is so powerful that doesn't even matter. But he does talk about some of the different things to watch for. But what you're really doing is you give them 5 emotions to think of, and they're supposed to think of, and you tell them, here's the 5, you have them written down so they can see, and think of one of those emotions and think of a specific memory that's associated with it. You look at their face and figure out what the emotion is, and then but here's the kicker, you're able to divine what the memory is that's associated with that emotion. And then they do it for the other 4 emotions. So, number 1, you don't even have to have them just choose an emotion. You can just say, okay, do anger now, do this one now, do this one now, and you simply divine what memory is associated with that, okay? So, the other piece of the routine, though, is you have them put a sticker on each envelope. You have 5 envelopes, and they put a sticker on one that says anger, one that says happiness, one that whatever, the 5 emotions. And then when you open up all the envelopes, they were right. There's a picture of your face with making the expression surprised, happy, scared, whatever. And it even has written on there the emotion, just so there's no confusion. But they've divined which envelope has which emotion in it. So that's the 2 phases of it. Last but not least, becoming the man. And this is basically becoming the man as in becoming Sherlock Holmes. And this is a routine where you give the spectator the ability to have these deductive powers, basically. So I'm trying to think if I can explain this without revealing anything. I think I can do this. So you give them this power, and you show them a photograph. Everybody's looked at this photograph already. You show it to the spectator, and he's to just look at it, think about it, and then using the powers you've given him, then put the photograph down, and then you ask him some questions. You know, it's a photograph of a crime. And you ask him some questions about the crime. Now he's not looking at the photograph anymore. And you ask him, do any ages of individuals stand out to you? Does any dollar amount stand to you? Is there a shoe size that stands out to you? You ask them all these weird questions, and they answer them. And you write down all their answers. Well, then you pull out a newspaper clipping, and it's a newspaper clipping of this crime, and it talks about the footprint impression they got. It was a size 11, and that's the size the guy named, and how much money was stolen, and the ages of some of the guys that were involved, and he named all these things and got them right. But when you look at the photograph, none of that information is on the photograph. You show it around, everybody's looking at it, and so he was somehow able to, by looking at the photograph, deduce those things. So the method's very simple, very, very easy to do, and very clever concept overall. So that's what you're getting. In general, like I said, the methods are solid. They're all solid, but some of them are going to take more work than others. As far as ad copy integrity, everything that you need to know about that is covered. There's nothing that stood out as a problem to me. Product quality is a little iffy on a few places. The lighting was really bad in both the performance and the explanation. In fact, sometimes it was just like whitewashed so bad that you couldn't see the cards. If there were white cards being used. There was an interview section at the end, and the host, his face was just whitewashed for the most part. But everything's still there, and you might have to watch a section a couple times to get it. And there was a few places where I felt you could have given us a little bit more detail there. And so I did have a few issues there, but it was nothing super major. So all in all, I gave it 4 stars, stone status of gem. If you're looking for some different kind of mentalism that has a little bit different feel, and it's got this deductionist performance character, then I think you'll really like this. So anyway, $60, 4 stars, stone status of gem. Time to like the video, subscribe to my channel, listen to the random iTunes song of the moment, which is, oh yeah, All She Wrote by Firehouse. These guys have been coming up a lot lately. This is off of the acoustic version of it. Anyway, good 80s band if you're into 80s music, and if you're not, you should be. So that's it for today, folks. Tune in tomorrow, day 90, where we will be looking at Your Card Is by Magic Tao and Grant Maidment. We'll see you then, folks. Thanks for watching. Peace out.